we had leaders who wanted to form a strong culture and who were ambitious and envisioned a world that would be different from what it was in the 1990s.
Hello, and welcome to On Purpose. Today, I'm joined by Jean Hynes, the CEO and managing partner of Wellington. Welcome, Jean.
Thank you, Kristin. Very happy to be here today.
You were raised by Irish immigrants in a very large family. Tell me a little bit about that dynamic and how that helped shape who you are.
My parents were both born in Ireland. They came to Boston in the 1950s. We grew up in a family with not much money. But I never knew that, right? I was just a very, very happy child. My parents were very focused, particularly my mother, on education, that education would be the differentiator.
How did you make the bridge to getting into finance from that?
I went to Wellesley College, so I was lucky enough. The Wellesley alumna ahead of me provided a lot of funding for financial aid, and Wellesley is a need-blind admission. Still is today. And so I got almost a full scholarship to go to Wellesley. And at Wellesley, I became an economics major. So I really loved economics. And actually, I loved microeconomics. And that is actually what I've done most of my career. I've been like a microeconomics healthcare investor.
I know what you've talked about before is how influential one of the sort of leading healthcare investors was at the time to your career. But talk to me a little bit about what that relationship of that mentor meant to you and how it helped shape who you are as a leader.
I had the privilege of working with Ed Owens for 20 years at Wellington. He was at Wellington for 38 years, and he started the Vanguard Healthcare Fund with Vanguard as a lead portfolio manager. And around the time I started at Wellington, he was starting another global health portfolio and a biotech portfolio. That was the beginning of the biotech industry started in the early 1990s. So I would say I was in the right place at the right time. Ed at the time was taking on all kinds of responsibility, but he was still the analyst for all these companies. And they wanted to hire someone that was more senior. And he said, what about Jean working with me? And I would say like that first decade of working with him was really about learning to be a great researcher. Like, how do you really generate insights about companies and about the world, how to really be a great researcher, how to really then be a good stock recommender, because it's a different skill being a researcher and then actually being willing to recommend stocks. And then eventually, how do you run portfolios?
What led you to believe I want to be CEO or I could be CEO? Was that always a dream of yours, or how did that evolve?
In 2015, I worked with an executive coach for a year. And at the beginning of that year, she said to me, do you want to be CEO? And I said, no, I don't want to be CEO. And then at the end of that year, I said, well, maybe. And so we decided to keep working together, because she's like, if you think it's a maybe, then I think you would benefit from coaching. And I think that was a really important part as I think about the next 4 or 5 years. Like, did I have the skills to be CEO? Did I want to be CEO? And what would need to happen if I was going to be CEO? Those were all 3 different and important questions. Just recognizing that I had the skill set, I could see myself doing the job when I work so closely. I'm like, I could say, I have that skill set. I can do this as well.
Tell me a little bit about what was culture like when you joined in the 90s, especially as a woman in finance.
So if you looked at Wellington in 2022, we have so much more diversity and diverse perspectives and diverse colleagues all over the globe. And so what I'm most proud of is taking that culture of the 1990s, which was mostly male and mostly white and mostly only from a few colleges, right? So I would say we had leaders who wanted to form a strong culture and who were ambitious and envisioned a world that would be different from what it was in the 1990s. And I think that basis has always allowed us to continue to push to say having a diverse workforce is actually the right thing to do for our clients, because diversity of thought is really, really positive.
We've talked a lot about your 4 daughters. Obviously, some of them are in college right now. What are the lessons that you hope your career and your example helps them with?
I have 3 now that are working and 1 in college. And if I take a step back, what I tell them all the time, I want them to find careers that they love, that interest them, where they love to learn, at companies that have super high integrity and great cultures. What I've given to them is like just role modeling. It's not even success. It's not that I'm CEO. It's more role modeling that being a human being and finding really satisfying work that you can contribute to the world. I hope that's what I gave to them, and that they can really grow and stretch and be around people that are tremendous.
That is incredible advice. So thank you so much for joining me, Jean. You are, as always, an incredible inspiration. And thanks for joining us for this episode of On Purpose. See you again next time.